Some days feel like the darkest chapters of a novel. Everything seems to be working against you. But if there is one truth, it's this. Even on the darkest pages, you can still find a flicker of light. This is the story of a young woman who learned to plant happiness in her heart, even when no one else believed in hope. Have you ever felt like everything was lost? Listen to this story. Maybe something in your heart will start beating again. Nora was born in an old neighborhood, narrow alleys, brick houses, windows filled with pots of geraniums. Her father was a teacher, and her mother was a seamstress. Their life was simple, but it was full of little joys. When Nora was 6, her father fell ill. Months of sickness wore the family down, draining their strength and money. But every night, her mother would light an oil lamp and tell her stories, tales of people who lost everything but still held on to one precious thing: hope. Years passed. Her father died, and her mother raised Nora with her worn, calloused hands. She often told her, "My dear, whenever life gets hard, learn to find small things that make your heart feel light." Nora memorized those words, but when she entered the real world, she forgot them. By 27, she had landed a good job. She became a graphic designer at a large company. But as important as her work was, the pressure was enormous. Some nights she came home so exhausted she couldn't even eat dinner. One rainy evening, when everything piled up, late projects, harsh criticism, overdue rent, loneliness, she sat on the steps outside her building and cried. She picked up her phone to call her grandmother, but before she could dial, she remembered her grandmother was no longer there. Right there, in the silence, she put her hand over her heart and whispered, "I wish I knew how to smile again." The next morning, with swollen eyes, she went to work. As she climbed the stairs, she heard a woman laughing, a clear, warm laugh that cut through the gloom. She turned and saw an older woman with a simple dress and a weathered face talking on the phone as if no burden existed in her life. For a moment, Nora just stared at her. In her mind, she wondered, how can someone be so happy when life is so hard? On her way home that night, she decided to do something different. She stopped at the first flower shop she saw and bought a small pot of violets. When the shopkeeper handed her the plant, she smiled and said, "This little one will remind you that life is still beautiful." Nora held the pot carefully in her arms. For the first time in months, she felt something warm moving in her chest. From that evening on, every morning when she opened her eyes before checking emails, she looked at the violets. She took a few minutes just to breathe and be still. Sometimes she would stand by the window, watching the birds. Other times, she would write a page in her journal. Slowly, she began to understand. Happiness isn't something you find. It's something you build. Months passed. People noticed Nora's change. One day, her colleague teased her. "Are you a sorceress? Why are you always so calm?" Nora laughed and said, "It's not magic. It's the habit of seeing the good things, no matter how small." But bad days still came. One Friday, when she finally thought things might settle down, she got a message. Her landlord planned to double her rent. She froze. That same old sense of defeat washed over her. But this time, she did something she'd never done before. She picked up her phone and called a friend. "I'm not okay," she admitted. "Can you come over?" That night, they sat together in a cozy cafe. When she wrapped her hands around the warm cup of tea, she felt that life could still be soft. Her friend looked into her eyes and said, Remember when you told me happiness was a choice? Now's the time to choose it, even when it's hard." Nora stared at the steam rising from her tea. She sighed and whispered, "All right, I choose it." In that moment, something began to bloom in her heart. She realized the secret of happiness, to be gentle with yourself even when you're sad. A few months later, she returned to the same cafe. She pulled out her journal and began to write. "Today didn't go as planned, but I'm still breathing. I can still smile. That's enough." Moral of the story: happiness is not some faraway destination. Happiness is knowing that each day you have a chance to find even the tiniest reason to smile. If today everything went wrong, how would you still find one reason to feel hopeful? Write it in the comments. Maybe your words will be the light someone else needs.